Hey, everybody. Welcome to the party. This is Coach Powell Training Development. I am loving the opportunity to bring some of the most talented people, some of the greatest ideas to small businesses all over the country, all over the world right now today. Let me see if I can't turn this music down so we can go ahead and get this party started. Sometimes I'm having so much fun that I forget to not have fun when we're getting this thing going. Okay, here we go. So as you guys know, Coffee to You and Me is a program that I've been doing now for more than 20 years. I've been helping entrepreneurs every Friday, getting together with entrepreneurs, business leaders, like kicking down some good ideas and really sharing great information and concepts that help you grow your business mindset, your concepts, the things that you're trying to do. Right now, we're working on a training series that's called Benefits. We're talking about every opportunity that you can to share the benefits that you provide, receive the benefits that you need to provide, and communicate those benefits effectively so that people can understand what they're dealing with when they're dealing with you. For the last couple of weeks, we've been going over the four quadrants of wealth. We're talking about basically the things that you need to do to create and maintain wealth. And I'm not talking about just financial wealth. I'm talking about wealth of all of your resources. When I say resources, I'm always talking about three things. I'm always talking about time, talent, and treasure. These are all of the things that if we understand how to maximize the effectiveness and the efficiency of these concepts and these resources, what's going to happen is we will have an abundance of something. The more you practice, the more you train, the more you develop your talents and skills, you become abundantly available and abundantly capable with your talents. The more you accumulate, the more you conserve, the more you're able to save, invest, grow a harvest from that investment, the more financial resources you'll be able to have. That's the treasure that you'll be able to accumulate, no tangible, accountable kinds of concepts and ideas. The more you're able to work effectively and efficiently in the time that you have, the more time you do have to dedicate to other ideas and so on and so forth. Now, all of these resources can literally be leveraged to create more. So, whatever you have in abundance, and everybody has something in abundance, right? Whatever you have in abundance can be shared, it can be leveraged because whatever it is that you have in abundance is probably people who need that. And that becomes your power. That becomes power for you to trade. That becomes power for you to become effective. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that in all of its permutations today. We're talking mostly, though, about generosity. And how do you use generosity to grow more for yourself and to help accumulate more for others? How do we get the generosity um, reciprocity model moving, right? We're talking about the more you give, the more you get, the more you give, the more you get, right? That's the law of reciprocity in work. How do you make sure you tweak that thing so that it's actually working more and faster in your favor? There are intelligent ways to do that, and there are not intelligent ways to do that. We're going to cover all the aspects of that in today's workshop. You're going to walk out of today's conversation with examples of how you can do this and do this with exceptionally well. Now, I'm not in this alone. I got to tell you, I got one of my rock stars that are waiting backstage, chomping at the bit to get on board with you guys and talk about this with me. And I got to tell you, there are a few people that you meet that you are similarly situated emotionally and intellectually that not only could you benefit from one another, but you can teach one another. And, Michelle GI is one of those people for me. She's the kind of person that, I can look up to, but I can also collaborate with, and I can also get, so much more from because her perspective is not always my perspective, but it's always spot on, and it's always a perspective that I can have a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for. And so I'm so proud that she decides to spend this time with us every once in a while when she's available, she's in town, and her time is precious and valuable, and I surely appreciate it. I'm so glad she's able to spend some time with us. She's a genius in the government contracting space, not only in the government contracting space, but in the understanding how and why to do business with the government. She has run millions of dollars of government contracts, literally in her lifetime as an Air Force veteran, and also within the organization she works with today. And she's a brilliant person to understand, to get to know. If you get the chance to get any of her attention, I promise you, it's going to be a gift, almost like a gift from God. It's going to feel like that. I promise you, when you get it, you'll be like, "Oh my God, where?" It's almost like sunlight just shine on you for the first time, and you be like, "Wait a minute, I didn't think sunlight could be this good, but it is. Oh, it's so good." So I got to introduce my girl right now. Let me just bring her to the table. And she deserves all the accolades and everything. She's gonna tell you she does, but she deserves all the accolades that I'm giving her right now. Let me bring her to the stage. Michelle Gi. She's in the
Hey,
house.
hey, what's up, coach? You got me over here blushing. Y'all can't see it, but I'm blushing. Thank you for those flowers. Um, I want to just say every time I'm in your presence, it's like Mary and Martha, when they met, and John and Jesus leaped in the womb in recognition of each other. You are always a data point, a row, a column in my Excel spreadsheet, and I tell everybody that's how my mind works. If you get in my Excel spreadsheet, when I see opportunities, see things that look like you, sound like you, smell like you, you're immediately going to come to the top, right? And that's who you are, Coach. I so appreciate this platform. I'm streaming to my profile too, so combined, we should be hitting a couple out, like just a little bit short or a little bit over 50,000 people together. That's just on LinkedIn, not including Facebook. But let's talk, brother. You know that I believe you reap what you sow, but not necessarily where you sow. And so I'm a giver, oftentimes to a fault, but I never question God. I never question the cycle or the principle that you give what you get. Not necessarily, I think the correction is we don't necessarily get in the place that we give, and that when you add value to people, it is an investment in the universe, and it's an investment in your ecosystem, and that thing just comes back. So honored to spend some time. Let's play what I love the most, and that's called intellectual tennis. You throw something over the net and I'm gonna hit it back.
Here we go. Here we go. I'm about to toss them over the net. I'm gonna put you backstage for a little bit. We're gonna get this party started. Listen, guys, we have got so many wonderful people, so many talented people that'll watch the show, that watch the show religiously, and they're always there. One of my favorite, Nancy White's in the house. She just throw just want to put a nice little something in the chat right now. Just want to share that with you. Nancy's another one of those geniuses that I get a chance to hang out with and have in my life. I'm so glad that she's here. Thank you so very much for coming on board today, Nancy. Luke, do me a favor, everybody who's watching it, if you have a business of any type, put your information in the chat. Let people know how they can get in contact with you. Any questions, any thoughts you have, throw that in the chat. Let's keep this party going, because this, by the way, is being broadcast on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, now on Instagram. And you can go back and watch any of the shows in the past that we've done over the past since COVID started. So that means almost 3 years now we've been doing this every single week. That's more than 150 shows already in the can. All right. So there's tons of information out there for you, tons of things to go back and watch some of the good stuff. If you have a favorite show, if you have something that you want to hear a repeat of, you can always go back and catch it. Or if you want or have a new concept, a thought, an idea you want us to share, go ahead and put that information in the chat. I review the chat. We talk about the chat. And if something I can't answer, or something that you need to have, I probably have somebody, a specialist in my network, I can bring to the table for you. So, let's not be shy. My contact information is right here. By the way, I gotta say this moment, as in every other thing that I'm doing right now, is sponsored by my fraternity brother, Phi Beta Sigma. These brothers are phenomenal in terms of business. Where we get known within the D9 world, for those of you who understand the world of although the traditional Black Greek organizations, where we are known the best is for handling business. In fact, our first national program was the Bigger and Better Business Program, and this business program always is about uplifting and trying to create energy around the small businesses in our communities. And so this is one of those efforts. What I'm doing right now is co-sponsored by my fraternity brothers. Wonderful organization, wonderful chapter. I love belonging to Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, and it's great for business. It's great for business in terms of my own personal business, but it's great for business in terms of your business. And so, what I mean by that is anything you have going on in your business that you want to share, post the information in the chat. This is a business friendly environment. We're not sitting around saying you can't sell your product, you can't talk about your events, you can't do blah blah blah. You can't. We have less you can't and more than you can. What you can't do is be profane, talk about things and do things that are not of good service and good value, or we consider a societal no-no, right? We don't do those things in this environment, in this space. In fact, I don't do those things at all. But for some of you all, hey, I can't speak for you. You do what you want to do in your life, but don't bring that noise up in here. So we're gonna try to keep it clean, keep it crisp. But whatever you put in the chat, as long as it's legitimate, I will leave it there, and discussions will be had around your ideas and your thoughts. So please engage with us. I'm going to ask you a couple of four quadrant questions. It's a new little technique I learned. It's not new to a lot of people, but it's new to me, and I think it's a lot of fun as we present our topic today. Today we're talking about um, generosity, what it means to be generous, and um, how important it is to your wealth accumulation and to your wealth maintenance to become generous. I said earlier to you that we all have various aspects of wealth that we are working in our daily lives. Sometimes it's our spiritual wealth, sometimes it's our personal wealth, sometimes it's our just financial, sometimes it's corporate, sometimes it's wellness. Is a form of wealth, right? So there's so many different forms of wealth. I could go on forever, but I won't list them all. There's so many forms of wealth that we have, and all wealth is can be leveraged. It can be creative. It can be used to create something more. It can be used to expand and to do it. And I believe we all are blessed with some form of talent, an opportunity to use our time, and some small modicum of treasure that we can engage and invest and resupply ourselves and others. Right. So it's important that we understand what generosity is and what generosity can be to our wealth building and wealth maintenance strategy. And so we're going to talk about some of those ideas and some of those key concepts. And for those of you all who are following along, I will share with you that we are in the third portion of the four quadrants of wealth building and wealth accumulation, and that the third quadrant is generosity. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what the other ones were, so that you can stay if you're paying attention to the document that's posted um, in our um, all of our advertising here, and it's a free download. You can go and get that if you're watching us from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. You can go get it from the original post. Um, the whole benefits training manual, which will be updated even at the end of these presentations, and when I get to probably the 20th steps in this whole thing, but somewhere around there, I'll probably have the whole document ready to go, the newer, updated version ready to go, but the older version is online and available for you for free right now. So the four quadrants of foundational wealth are respectability, excellence, generosity, and prudence. Week before last, talked about respectability. What does that mean? And before that, we talked about excellence. You know, right? How do you use excellence? And both in terms of your expectation of receiving excellence from others and giving excellence to others. Right now, we're talking about generosity. And when we're talking about generosity, you kind of first of all understand what generosity is, and it's not this, you know, um, give everything you can to as many people as you possibly can. I'm not talking about that indiscriminate, undetermined level of generosity. I'm talking about a specific kind and specific thought process and concept behind generosity that will help you accumulate it more. I'm talking about the kind of contribution, the kind of investment that you could share with some kind of discernment with others that will come back to you tenfold. Um, Zig Ziglar used to say, if you give it away in slices, it'll come back to you in loads. But like Michelle indicated earlier, you've got to be careful about how you use your God-given talents and your gifts and your wealth and your strategy, how you invest those things, because you could just be throwing seeds on stone and on concrete, and they're not going to take root. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. You might get lucky, and a seed falls into a crack somewhere, and it finds a way to get nurture in, and it finds a way to get some sunlight, and it might grow. But in general, you got to be careful. You want to sow on in some good fertile ground, and then you want to nurture what you sowed really, really well with some fertilizer and making sure it gets the proper, hydration and sunlight. And then you can reap a harvest that is abundant, right? So you have to think about that. You don't get abundance from just indiscriminate activities and so on and so forth. You get abundance from well discerning, intentional things that you do. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to start you off with a quote. This is a quote that was written by Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, One Woman's Search for Everything. Now, for those of you who have read that book, I'm telling you, it's really, really good. I have read it and given it out as gifts to a lot of my friends, but it's important that you think about this. This is about generosity. In the end, though, maybe we must all give up trying to pay back the people in this world who sustain our lives. In the end, maybe it's wiser to surrender before the miraculous scope of human generosity and to just keep saying, thank you forever and sincerely for as long as we have voices. I love this quote because Elizabeth Gilbert was saying in this quote, you know, when we've been the beneficiary of somebody else's time, talent, or treasure, somebody has shared their resources for us for no reason other than they cared enough about us to share with us. Maybe we should spend a little less time worrying about how to pay them back and a little more time looking at all the places where we have been the beneficiary of somebody else's generosity and just saying thank you genuinely for the gift, for the sincerity, for the honesty, for the love, for the caring, for the attention. Thought it was such a powerful quote to begin with, thinking about generosity, because it helps us understand that generosity in and of itself doesn't just mean something for us as receivers of the generosity. It means a lot to those who were generous enough in the first place to us, who took the time to fulfill a need, who took the time to assess the situation and come up with what they could come up with to aid and assist, right? I'm I'm thinking right now about the difference between empathy and sympathy. When people listen to one another, they got a couple of choices about what they can do when they hear a pain point or when they experience a pain point. Emotionally, you could, fall hook, line, and sinker into the pain and the suffering and the sorrow that someone else might be sharing with you. And this is not being empathetic. This is being sympathetic. So much so that their emotional response to whatever you're actually experiencing and seeing the same and feeling the same way. Now, once you get entrapped in somebody else's feelings in this way, you're going to behave in the same way that anybody will behave when they're fearful or hesitant or doubtful or experiencing guilt, blame, shame, or anything like that, right? But you can be empathetic without borrowing the same feelings in the same moment at the same time. Because once you're in that feeling with them, So much so that you're sympathetic, you can't respond in a way that's helpful. You understand what I'm saying? So let me just put it this way. If I make you feel afraid and scared and guilty and all these things because you're listening to me talk about whatever I'm experiencing, if you feel the same way, then we're both just feeling bad, right? But if you empathize and you understand how I feel this way, and you can share an understanding, a thought about how you understand those feelings versus sinking into those feelings yourselves, you can be a source of assistance to help change those feelings to something different, something more positive, something more useful in terms of growth and development, right? This is what we can do. This requires the generosity of empathy. It's a level of generosity. Being empathetic, when you think about it, I can't think of any other uh, idea or concept that builds relationships faster. To example, you can use generosity to build and foster strong and meaningful relationships. That's rule number one. In order to do that, you've got to be great at, again, what Michelle said earlier, providing value. You've got to be great at listening, which means you could be pretty good at asking open-ended questions. It means you have to give a good interview, right? You have to know how to ask people the right information to get the right information out of them. I have some wonderful examples of some open-ended questions that I'll share with you offline if that's what you want to do. If you want those examples, those open-ended questions, I'll be more than happy to provide those for you. But you got to ask me, and I gave you all the information on how to get in contact with me right here. The second thing is to think about when it comes to using generosity in terms of your wealth accumulation, and your wealth maintenance, is creating a positive reputation. Generosity can be used to develop your reputation. It also can be used to attract business opportunities and partnerships. It is true. You need to do something or be known to do something exceptionally well within the framework of others who can see you and then go, huh, because of your reputation, I know that I could trust you or I could potentially trust you with this opportunity, whether it's going to be a partnership or it's going to be some type of collaboration or joint venture, right? Opportunities come to those who are deserving of those opportunities. But how do you get that deserving part going, right? It's your reputation. And people go, well, that's the catch 22 because I'm really talented, but I don't have any experience. Get some experience. Well, how am I going to get some experience if nobody will hire me? There's nobody out there who needs your talent, who will not find a way to make that talent useful and beneficial to them if you present to them that you have the talent. Yeah, you may have to do some free work. You may have to volunteer. You may have to say, listen, I need to gain some experience in this space in order to find the credibility I need to find. Um, would you mind if I volunteer doing what I do for you for a specific period of time on a specific project? That's better than taking 1,000 different classes on how you can market your product and service if you have spent the time to gain the experience in the right places. You know what's gonna happen? They're gonna go, "Oh my god, I don't know what I did without you in this particular category. Who can I tell how wonderful you are?" And you can tell them upfront, "Look, here's what I'm working for. I'm working for your endorsement. I'm working for your testimonial. I'm working for any third-party influence that you might be able to levy on my behalf. Can you promote me within the area of this conference or community? Can you share your ideas and thoughts about me to other people? Would you be willing to be my champion in this space?" These are things that can happen and you can build this reputation. And once you build a reputation and you're known in the space, Michelle brought up a gentleman to us that talked to us on Wednesday night about developing a specific reputation in a specific place that's deep, not wide. Basically, meaning you are developing smart relationships with the right people in the spaces that you're playing in. And so they're going to carry your message. They're going to carry your brand. They're going to carry all the good things about you to other people in the organization that's just basically going to make them feel good and make them look good at the same time for hiring you or bringing you on or thinking about you in any type of opportunity meetings that may come up. But you got to have the reputation first, which means you have to establish what the relationship. There we go again. The third thing in terms of generosity, in terms and what it can do for you, is it cultivates gratitude. Now, there are types of generosity that does not cultivate gratitude. That's when you give people stuff that they don't want or need, or when you give people stuff that they don't appreciate. It's not of value to them. You give indiscriminately, you are guaranteed to do that. But if you're giving whatever you're giving, time, talent, or treasure, right, in a way that's specific and meaningful in terms of responding to an established need. Let me repeat. If you're giving to people in response to an established, well understood need, they're probably going to be grateful for receiving whatever it is that you gave them. And what you can do with gratitude is better than any other thing because people who are grateful are loyal. People who are grateful are pleased with you. People who are grateful find value in who you are and what you bring to the table. Respect is impossible without gratitude. Did I say that? Yeah, I said that. That was me. Respect is impossible without gratitude. You cannot adore or honor anyone or anything specifically for what they've done or what they're capable of doing if you don't even understand it, if you've never received it. Impossible. And that's what respect is, that adoration and honor that is bestowed upon somebody else for what they have done or what you have seen them done or what you have witnessed them done. They've established a reputation for something that you hold in high esteem. So let's stop throwing that word respect around when we don't really know what it means, what it is in practice, right? Number four, generosity can help you enhance your own personal growth. What do I mean by that? People who are generous tend to be, and I mean intentionally generous, right? They intend to be um, have increased levels of empathy. They have increased levels of self-reflection and increased levels of a sense of purpose. Right now, when you have empathy, self-reflection, and a sense of purpose all together, growing at an increasing level, what tends to happen is you see dramatic resources and opportunities come to you through your leadership skills and your overall effectiveness. But the thing that gets that pump is your generosity, your willingness to pay attention to others, your willingness to respond to their needs, your willingness to give from an abundant heart. All of that sparks that energy where you can grow and become a better person, where you can grow and see yourself becoming a better person. That's that self-reflection piece, right? And then deciding for yourself with a sense of purpose and connection to that purpose, how you're going to lead and grow in your life. It's an amazing thing to see it happen when people reach a level of maturity, when they're willing to do the things that they're willing to do because it makes sense for them. And that's the primary reason. And everything else comes into play. Everything else comes to them, not because they were seeking profit, but they were seeking to bring something good and something whole and something well, something sustainable into the universe. And what happens as a result of you seeking that, the universe rewards you with profitability. And the better you get at finding those opportunities where you can show up authentically in a way that displays excellence, the more you're going to get back from the universe that is basically waiting for you to show up. I want you to think about it like that. You know, the universe is waiting for you to show up. You can't show up to everybody, so you have to show up with somebody. You get to choose who that somebody and who those somebodies will be. So why not choose to show up with somebody who can then turn around and appreciate and enjoy and adore and respect you and do something as a result of that respect in a way that's going to benefit yourself and others. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why we don't do it more. I don't know why we don't There's a term I created called listening up. Basically meaning paying attention to those who really can do something with your attention. you know, not just grow for themselves, but actually share something of talent and value to others because of what you shared with them. The last thing that's important to know about giving and being generous, right, is there's a cycle that happens and you encourage that cycle when you can start that. It becomes a ripple effect of generosity that goes from you to another person, another person, another person, another person. And the more you get good at it, the more you can create this positive and supportive and collaborative environment around you based on the contribution that you make. And like Michelle said earlier, sometimes your gift is not going to come back to you from the people even that you put the gift into. Sometimes it's a third party gift. Sometimes it's gonna skip two generations, so to speak, or two people, so to speak, and it's gonna come back some other way from some other person that might not even know that you were involved in the situation in the first place. But that ripple effect will continue to occur. And the more energy you feed it, the more it will continue to occur, the bigger it becomes. It moves from a ripple to a tidal wave when you become really, really good at this, right? Which is going to lead to, again, a more supportive, more collaborative environment for yourself and everyone around you. So focus more on your contribution, focus more on what you can give, focus more on how you can use your time, talent, and treasure wisely in places where you can reap a harvest. I love a guarantee. And it's just a part of my personal space, right? I'm an entrepreneur because not because I like risks. I'm an entrepreneur because I like guarantees, and I can control where the guarantees are coming from when I put the right information and attitude or right thought processes in the right spaces with the right people. It's that simple, and I can make promises of things I haven't even done yet because I've done it before, and I know I can stretch myself to accomplish those things. But that's because I understand how people function and how they work with one another. And it's super important for you to begin that process in understanding how to listen up. My 9 steps to mastering professional relationships. Step number 1, 2, and 3 are the most important. Step number 1, learn to listen. Listen up. Listen to people that deserve your attention and that, won't just blow up your spot giving you information that meaningful stuff that won't matter to you, right? Listen to the people who matter. That's number 1. Rule number 2 is after you've listened, you've made the connection, make a promise to do something with this information. Make a promise to do something with what you learned. Make a promise to do something with the contribution that someone else is giving you while you were listening. And then number 3, follow up. Somebody tells you something, share something with you, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we could do blah, blah, blah with that. Don't just talk about it, be about it, do it. And when you do it, you're creating a reservoir of trust that you can keep coming back to over and over and over and over again for more and more and more and more and more trust. That's really the golden secret to everything that I ever teach when it comes to professional and business relationship. Listen up, promise, make promises, and follow up. If you do those 3 things, I promise you, you'll be golden. Now, there's 6 more steps that if you do all those steps, you're locking in big time success. But we'll talk about those a little bit later. All right, I'm going to bring GI up and get her feedback on some of the stuff that we talked about and answer any questions that you all may have in the audience. Anything that you're thinking or you'd like to hear more information about, feel free to put it in the chat. I really look forward to engaging with you in this way. A lot of times people don't take me up on this, but the chat's going to be there even when we close the show. And so it's great information. You may be surprised, even if I can't answer your questions, who might get to answer your question. And that the need that's not met is probably the need that isn't spoken for. So speak up for it. If you guys got a question, thought, anything you need, put it out there in the chat. Let's see what happens. Boss, good to see you, Michelle.
Hey, I'm busy in the chat, man. I'm enjoying. I'm putting my notes and thoughts in the chat. I was like a student up in here taking notes. This is amazing. So many and you're not getting the feedback, are you?
No,
Okay, because I'm live on, I'm making notes as we're talking.
I hear you.
Um but so many things. You know, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, coach, is what makes people more generous to some than others based on your years of experience?
So it just, I think you already know my answer to this question. People like each other for whatever reasons they like each other for. If they
Mm-hmm.
like you, they'll give you the benefit of the doubt. They'll go to the mat for you. They'll sacrifice for you. Likability, man, is a big factor in that. You know, the person who is genuine about their need and asks is probably going to get that much more than the person who tries to find the slickest ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You
Okay.
know, I just it just happened a couple days ago. Um, there was a brother out in the street begging,
Mm.
and he said, "Brother, I don't know if you have anything that you can share with me today, but I really could use a helping hand. If you can give me anything, that I would really, really appreciate it." He wasn't just holding up a sign.
Mm.
He didn't just dress the part. A lot of people you could tell, it's like, wait a minute, you got some nice shoes on with
Yep.
this old beat up outfit, like, I, mm,
Mm.
I don't know
Mm.
how how'd you come up with these $300 Jordans, but you out here begging. I got some suspect to that, but the brother was genuine, and I was like, okay, I stopped what I was doing, pulled out my wallet, found if I had any cash in there, I gave it to him.
Why?
Now,
What made him
because he
different?
was genuine. I didn't see any dishonesty in his approach. He had a need, and I had the ability to fulfill that need. Now, I was also creating this specific talk at the time, right? And so what was on my mind was how I could pay it forward.
Mm. Mm.
He didn't know that that was already on my mind.
Mm.
He just saw me connected, saw me eye to eye, and said, "Brother." Now,
Mm-hmm.
would he have said that to me if I was a white guy? I don't know. Would
Mm-hmm.
it have had that same appeal to me? Maybe not.
Mm.
But something about him, I said, "Wait a minute, I see you. I
Mm-hmm.
like you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a connection."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to jump in on here because I think when we have intention, right? So you're studying your exploration of this topic made you more hypersensitive to walking the talk, right?
Yes,
And I
yes.
think as leaders and as people who seek to do good in the world, the reason we do it is because we want to confirm to ourselves, to God, to the universe, that we are true to the things we're teaching others. At least I know that's the case for you, and I know that's the case for myself. The other
Right.
thing I think is, um, sometimes generosity has a connection, right? It has a connection to what you've seen, what you've experienced, the empathy you talked about. But the connection I really want to discuss with you is the connection that when we are generous, we don't let it go.
What do you mean?
Meaning, when we give it, we're still tied to it.
Oh, oh, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
That we're tied to
See,
it. And so our hesitancy to be generous is this a good investment? Will this turn out the way I think it should? Um, is it is it um something that when I give it, I kind of sense that it will end good. You know, it's like the case that you talked about with the brother. You gave to him because you something in your connection made you think that that was a good investment and that it was going to help him in the way that he needed. You didn't had you had any sense, I know I'm this way, that it was going to turn out bad or that it was going to go for something bad, makes you hesitant to give. And we're using the homeless guy scenario, but the
Right.
same scenario can happen when we're seeking to contribute or be generous with our knowledge with people, our money with people, our time. That generosity doesn't, the scenario doesn't change in our connection to what
Right.
will happen when I give it, right?
Right. Right, right, and there's a discernment there,
Mm,
and there's
mm,
actually 2 thoughts from that question that I had to share. One is discernment. As you grow older and wiser, you become more discerning. It doesn't take age, right?
mhm,
But it does take
mm,
experiences.
mm.
So the more experiences that you have, um, with being generous, the more you learn how to be appropriately generous,
Oh, I love that.
right? So that's thought 1. Thought 2 is, you know, you don't give from your scarcity, you give from your abundance, right? So if you have it to give abundantly, now's when you really have to be careful because if you have it in abundance, then you're not likely to be as discerning as you would, and you should always be discerning, right? So it may take you to ask a couple questions, but um, if I, and I got an example of how I tried to give and tried to do the right thing and end up causing more problems than I actually
Been
meant
there,
to cause.
been
Um,
there, done
there
that.
was
Mhm.
there was 2 young ladies um, begging for money outside of a store that I was going into because I had to buy a quick little notebook for a presentation I was about to give, and they were both out there. They both, one was a little younger, one was a little older, but both clearly homeless, right? And clearly needing some help. And they were both begging for money. And I'm like, listen, nobody owns a street corner. I mean, you all at the same corner. They're right outside the same store, same door front, and I was like, I can't give to one, not the other. So I decided I'm gonna give to both of them. But instead of taking time to invest in getting change from the vendor I just spent money with, I got a $20 bill, fresh new $20 bill. And I figured I'd make them share the $20 bill.
Oh,
And I
wow.
said, listen, I looked at one, I said, listen, I want to give you this money, but I want you to share it with this other sister right here. And it ended up causing an argument between those two about who was more deserving of this $20.
Mm.
And they end up fighting with each other. And then the one that actually didn't give her $10, she gave her like $5. And I just created this. I did it. It was me. It was my energy that created this animosity. They already had the animosity, obviously, but I escalated the situation instead of by trying to do something benevolent. They both were mad,
Mm.
you know. And had I thought now the next time this occurs, and I want to give to 2 people, I'll just make sure I give to 2 people what I want to give to each of them, and I won't
Exactly.
get them involved with the situation. But that's now
Exactly.
what that was the experience, right?
Exactly.
The experience taught me to do it differently next time
Wow.
because I could have just done that, right? Or I could have asked the question and said, "Listen, I'm gonna give you some money, but I'm not gonna take the time to get change and all that kind of stuff to make sure I give it to each of you, blah blah blah. Do you have what it takes to share? Because
That
if you
part.
don't, because if you don't, I'm
I'm
giving
not
it
gonna
all to
give
this girl.
anybody.
No, no, I'm giving it all to this other lady because you
uh,
don't seem
uh,
you're not the kind of person I would want to give to,
yeah, that's good. That's good.
you know.
You know,
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
if she said that, then that would have done two things. That if she said yes, then that would make that would indicate to her that she probably needs to be better to other people herself.
Uh-huh.
And it would also be an indicator that you all probably need to work. You probably could do more if you work together than you could if you worked apart.
Oh, you got my mind going so many different ways. First thing I want to say, Coach, is that scenario is applicable to government contracting.
Absolutely, I understand that.
We give a prime a contract. We say, execute your subcontracting plan as required.
Mhm.
Give a portion of that $20 to a small business. I'm hearing more and more stories about how primes are not living up to those teaming and subcontracting agreements and are saying, just like you said, you were supposed to get $10 of the 20 and you get 5 or you get 1.
Even worse, you do the lion's share of the work, and they want to pay you significantly less than they received on the contract. I'm like, time out.
Yes.
Last time I
Yes.
checked,
Yes.
fairness.
Yes.
I understand equity and fairness are not the same thing, right?
Yes.
But fairness fundamentally is when you promised me that when you hired me out, you put my name on this
Mm-hmm.
contract, or you said that I was
Mm-hmm.
going to come along with this contract.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to pay me a
Mm-hmm.
pittance.
Mm-hmm. And it's because of the lack of accountability, right? And the lack of
Right.
accountability and the power of being large. Small businesses, I was having this conversation with someone yesterday, don't have time or money to take people to court. Most
Right.
lawyers will tell you teaming agreements are not worth the paper they're written on.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately, and what's more unfortunate is that subcontracting or teaming is a great business development strategy for small businesses seeking to expand their business, where they bring a capability, they bring a capacity, but they don't have the ability to you know to do it on their own. So that was one. I did want to bring that up. But the other one where you talked about, how much energy you give and where you give it reminds me of General Electric. This just tells you how, it is
Who?
generosity.
I don't even know that company. What are you talking about? General Electric? Who?
Oh,
You
come on. I know they're out of business now, but you know, for the young
I got a
folks,
few gray hairs. I get
for
it.
the young folks, General Electric used to be huge. But my mind immediately kind of works in acronyms or acrostics and so I thought about generosity energy, because you talked about when those of us who are operating in abundance or overflow, guess what, we have a tendency to be more generous because we have it to give. Well, as I've gotten more older and wiser, I'm now into energy management, which equals General Electric generosity, the energy of the amount of generosity I give. I have to be careful because there are people who are drawn to you because they know you're operating in abundance. They know that you are generous. And so if they can come and take it with they just want to say that they were in proximity. They just want to say that they got something, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go do something with it. And it's funny because I was talking with a young lady who had followed me and said, "Oh, I did this and this and this, and I'm on this team for this amazing contract." And sometime I get very focused, like laser, and I said, "Yes, but do you have any work?" And I went into my speed coaching, I call it interrogation, right? Because I try to get down to, okay, are you really making money? Like,
Right.
so,
Right. Right.
and then she just kind of did timeout. Like, I'm overwhelmed by this series of subsequent questions. She said, I just wanted to say thank you because what you told me to do, I did. And I said, got it. And later on, I sent to her a message that said, congratulations, you're on your way. I want you to win, and winning equals contract dollars in your bank in the form of profit. So please don't misunderstand my questioning that I'm trying to negate the point of success, the hurdle you overcame, but it ain't done until the Benjamins hit the bank, baby.
Yes. Yes.
You
Yes.
know?
Yes. 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 It's so funny sometimes how we want to have a party for the basics.
Mm.
And I'm an advocate of celebration. I am. I really am. However, it's hard for me to celebrate the basics
Me
with
too.
you
It's a fault.
when
It's a
right.
negative. You know that, right?
I
Okay.
get it. I'm accepting that, and that's why I told you. It's like your general
Because
can
I
only
hear
hang
that.
out
That's
so
why I'm saying it's a negative.
right. The general can only hang out so long with the lieutenants, right? Before the general's like, okay, it's enough already. It's just you don't really get it. I mean, and you get what you get, and that's good for you. But you got a long way to go, a long way to grow.
Mm-hmm.
For me to have a party,
Mm-hmm.
for me to have a party, I want to see you make Colonel,
Killer. Yeah.
right? I, just because you promotable to the next level of lieutenant, that don't mean nothing. I, you want me to celebrate that success? That I make first lieutenants all day long, every day. That's no big deal, right? But if you really want me to have a party, let's talk about your plan to make full bird colonel before you retire.
That
Because
thing.
now
It is.
that's something that I want to celebrate.
Yes. Yes.
But that's the selfish part of me.
Of the
I,
generosity. That's what I meant by there's a connection. We don't necessarily let that go. We, especially when we give it to someone in proximity, right? When we
oh
give it
yeah,
away,
man.
like the homeless guy, you gave it to him, you may never see him again.
Right.
But if you gave it to someone who's close to you, where you have the ability
Ooh,
to see them grow or not, okay, I'm just saying there's
that
some
brings me to a whole
connection
different
there.
conversation. How many people want to have the same party over the same thing they did 20 years ago? When they gonna let that go? When's he gonna get the next level of success?
Yeah, yeah,
It's like, oh, you won a contract 5 years ago. You still partying that thing?
yes.
Did it lead to a second contract? A bigger contract? No. Then that was just nothing. I'm sick of people getting excited about a transaction.
Yes,
Just one
yes,
transaction.
yes,
Really?
yes.
Does that say you're gonna repeat? Are you coming back? Is can you turn it into 3 or 4 transactions? That's
Hello,
leverage.
hello, and the diversity, the diversity of that ensures greater legacy wealth. I just talked to the Maryland Veterans Chamber of Commerce. I said two things: ABB and ABC. Always be building business and always be building relationships and always be closing deals and closing gaps on the knowledge you have of your clients, which goes
Ooh, say
back
it
to the
again.
first one. Always be building business and always be building relationships. It's a
Right,
cycle. When you stop
right.
the cycle, it's just a matter of time that the money is going to run out.
See,
Period.
now this is why you and I, after we have these conferences and things like that, you and I just can't go for drinks because we still be working.
For real.
That's because that's the cloth we're cut from. It's like this. I want to do some great things. Got time to just to zone out and do nothing. Now, that's not always a good thing,
It isn't.
right? Because sometimes you just gotta chill out, accept people from where they are,
And
not
what they
where we
want.
think, right? Not where we want them to be, or think they could be. Because I learned this in leadership years ago. It's like if as you grow in your leadership talent, you're able to see other people's talents. You're able to see their gifts, and you're able to see where they could go. But that's not where they can't necessarily see themselves in those same spaces, in the same places, in the same attitude, and so on and so forth. And so it's important that you meet people where they are and to stretch them just a little bit, and then come back again, stretch them a little bit more, and then come back and stretch them a little bit more. You may see them here, but they don't see themselves here. So if you try to present to them like you're gonna be here, you're gonna be the next great thing in government contracting. If they're not ready to bite that apple, not ready to put that effort
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
you presenting that vision to them doesn't help them get there.
In
In
fact,
fact,
it
it helps them,
scares them.
right. It helps them not want to talk to you again.
In fact, it's funny you say that. I know we're supposed to be this. This is so good, so good. There are people that I have mentored that don't come back. You know why? Because they said every time I'm engaged with you, you are stretching me and and stressing me to be something that's too hard to do.
Right.
And I can tell you, and I know you're the same, because we have the gift of vision, right? When you're a
Hmm.
visionary, you see more and before, not just in things, but in people.
Right.
And
Right.
that comes with a positive and a negative. It's a positive if that person is ready for you to all, like some of us, like for me, I have a mentor uh, that I call the 13th disciple, amazing man of God, visionary. All it took is for him to say, "This is who you are, go get it." And I was like, "Oh my God, I never saw myself like that. I can go do that." That's what got
Right.
me from '05 to '06. Because
Right.
I was gonna retire at '05 and be like, okay, it's good. I got further than
Exactly.
most. And he was like,
Exactly.
mm-mm, mm-mm. Look at this. This is the mirror. This is what I see. This is what you can do. This is how amazing you are, how powerful you are. And boom. But there are other people that see that and go, "Oh my God, I can never do that. I'm not like you. That's too much." And so they run away. And
Right.
I first I used to take that personally, coach, because I felt like
Yeah.
I did something. No, I just have to be transparent. And then I
Right.
realized, okay, they don't see it for themselves. You can't help somebody. You can't pour into a closed vessel.
You can't. There it is, right there. I love this. His listen what Nancy said about Nancy heard you. You see more and before. you know, so just want to let you know, people they're out there listening, right? They're listening, and it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Um, Often, I think generosity gets a bad rap, and sometimes because people aren't giving with intention and are giving wisely from a place where they have some type of efficacy. They're just kind of I'm just giving, 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 and you know when you get good at giving, it's hard to understand how to get that return, how to be a receiver, and how to stand up for your needs. And so I want people to know that no matter what I'm talking about up here, I'm never saying take from your storehouse and give to others, leaving yourself and your family with less than when you need it. I'm never going to tell you to advise you to do that. Never. I'm always going to make sure you're taking care of home, but also make sure you're taking care of others. Don't neglect home. Don't neglect yourself, your wellness, your health, mentally, emotionally, physically, or anything like that for anybody else. Because when you don't have anything left in the tank and there's nobody that's going to replenish your tank because
Yeah,
you haven't understood how to receive as well as how to give, then you're done.
true,
Now you're no
true,
longer an asset to the community. You're a liability.
true. You know, I
and
just,
nobody.
I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. I just, somebody texted me and they said, "Oh, I need to talk to you. Can you?" And for the first time, I'm learning. I said, "I'm not in a space where I have it to give," and it and
Ooh,
and
that's a
and
level of maturity, man.
and
I
and I
respect
meant
that.
that. It wasn't that they
Right,
weren't
right,
deserving. It
right.
wasn't that I didn't have a desire. I assessed my energy level because I've been on back to back, events, and just been meeting and giving out to people, and people wanting and wanting. And I was like, I don't have it to give.
Right.
And it was a period there.
I got a whole different workshop now. That I got to put together because that is so true. You know, we have to learn how to be okay with what you just did and not feel like we're coming up short or at a deficit as a result of taking care of ourselves in that way. And I think I teach people this kind of offhandedly, but I think I have to be more specific about it. You know, putting what you need out there in the universe and in space is also a way of playing defense for people who may be takers and not givers. You know, so I always often tell people with their elevator speeches and stuff like that. You have a different elevator speech for different people. You have a different elevator speech for investors, a different elevator speech for consumers, a different elevator speech for potential partners or venture people or whatever.
That's
Different
good.
elevators for different people, right? You can't give the same elevator speech for everybody because it's not going to be effective everywhere, right? So you got to be really mindful of what's your story, what's the story you're telling, and who you're telling the story to. And if that same person hears you telling a different story in a different way, they may ask you, hey, well, why did you tell them that story, but you didn't tell us that story? Because them is them, and you are you. you know, I don't tell everybody the same thing, speak everybody the same way, because everybody doesn't need or want or expect the same things. I'm trying to respond to various different needs. My investor pitch is different from my closing sales pitch, which is different from my business relationship building partnership pitch, which is different from my I'm gonna get a referral source or third party interview or whatever that is. So I think we have to be more careful about it, making sure that we are intentional about everything.
Mm,
That way we can get the results we're looking for. But when
mm,
you're not intentional, you don't have a plan, you don't have a thought, an idea, then you're just shooting from the hip. And you're going to get whatever comes,
sure.
not what you want, but whatever
Yeah,
comes.
sure.
And you have to figure. Then you have to sift it out and go, "Oh, do I want that? I don't really want that. Now I got to regift this thing. Oh my God,
Not regifting. I love it.
I got to figure out what to do with it now, because anything you have, you got to take care of it,
Sure.
or it's a waste, right? So you got to
Yeah.
figure out what to do. That means that could mean regifting, could mean just sitting on yourself and polishing it off every month or two when it gets dusty. Who knows? But the point is, we got to be careful by asking for what we want, so that when we get what we want, we know how to take care of what we want, and we can share it, we can leverage it, we can create more. But if we get too much stuff that we don't need, it just bogs us down.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It keeps
And
us from
can
moving forward.
I'm sorry
Go
to
ahead.
cut you off. My mind was
We no, you know
fast.
what?
Please forgive me. Please forgive.
I gotta close the show out because we've been at this for more than an
Oh,
hour. It's gonna make it
oh,
hard to broadcast again.
okay.
But so for those of you all having any questions, keep the chat open, keep the chat alive. We're gonna keep answering questions, but we're gonna close the show down right now. Michelle, don't you go anywhere.